The highly regarded painter Jules Breton writes with marked enthusiasm about Pharaon de Winter. You know the fine successes he achieved in Paris with his monks and religious pictures. He is a true painter who can give an excellent inspiration to your academy. He has the respect of all who know him, and the rewards he received, and which he deserved long ago, were applauded by everyone. So I don't see who his competitor could be, and I warmly recommend him to you at the Academy as a person and as an artist. Pharaon de Winter was born in Belle in 1849. He was the third child of a clogmaker from Belgium, who gave his 12 children rather literary names, such as Zenon, Odon, Ursma, Clovis, etc. Pharaon should have been called Pharaon, a name that was then in the calendar of saints, but due to a mistake by the official, it became Pharaon. At a young age, Pharaon already learned to help out in the family business. He hardly went to school, but immediately showed his talent for drawing by copying reproductions of the masters from books. As a result, his father noticed his talent, and at the age of 11, he was allowed to take lessons at the local drawing school with the painter Edouard Swingadow. His father entrusted him to his elder sister in 1861, who had a hotel in Bruges, the Le Panier d'Or, where Pharaon would stay for 6 years as an assistant in the business. There he attracts the attention of a real painter, Henri Julien de Stoop, who takes him into his studio. By 1864 he painted his first work, a self-portrait. Thanks to de Stoop, the young Pharaon is able to take lessons at the prestigious Bruges Academy, where he won a silver medal in the drawing class after the antique cast in 1865. The education in Bruges must not have been bad, because after his return to Belle Bailleul in 1868, de Winter won all the first prizes there and was able to continue his studies at the École académique in Lille, where he had Alphonse Koller as his painting teacher, with the support, an annual stipend of 500 francs, of the De Poit Foundation for Artists. In this way, de Winter's education was given a solid French basis, although he would never lose touch with the Flemish tradition. His skills led to a position as a drawing teacher at a private school, the Institution Prés et de Boeuf in Lille. But he received a grant again and was able to study for a year at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, in the studio of Alexandre Cabanel, where he won the first prize for oil sketch and the fourth for figure painting. These prizes and mentions were of great importance for a further career in the art world. During that year in Paris, he was noticed, as they say, by the famous trio of Cabanel, Carpeaux, and Puvis de Chavannes. He met other young naturalist artists there, such as François Flameng, Henri Gervex, Carrier-Belleuse, Eugène Carrière, and especially rising star Jules Bastien Lepage, who remained a friend for life, just like Léon Comore. He also came into contact with major collectors such as Count d'Orsay. His teacher and patron, Monsieur Cabanel, was so pleased with this that he wanted to nominate him for a third-class medal, which de Winter unfortunately refused because he thought that his fellow student and friend Comer had more right to it than he. Cabanel was displeased in that he did not like that Flemish honesty or stubbornness at all. It would take until 1886 before de Winter received a medal at the Paris Salon. Then there is the story of wealthy critic Louis de Fourcault, who would succeed for the chair of aesthetics and art history at the École nationale des Beaux-Arts. It seems de Fourcault wants to buy Old Woman Praying and insists on it, but de Winter refuses. He argues that he wants to keep that important step in his development for himself. No doubt he was already thinking about keeping all the important pieces with him, to have them in a kind of museum in his large studio in Belle. But it is repeatedly stated that he had little regard for interesting people, or chasing contacts for the sale of works in places or with persons who could bring prestige or an interesting circle of buyers. Tragically, in 1879, de Winter had to deal with the death of his son, Carolus, and then that of his wife, Angelina. He then left for Italy for a few months, where he visited Turin, Florence, Rome, Naples, and Pompeii. In the biography that Zephyr, his son from his second marriage, wrote about him, and which remains the main source for knowledge of his life, one can read how the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, next to the works of Raphael, made a great impression on him. The artist brought back piles of photos that he often used in his teaching, showing the line work of Michelangelo, which particularly appealed to him. He hardly painted in Italy, but he did paint a portrait of a museum guard and a small copy of a religious painting. But during a large part of the trip, De Winter was ill and contracted malaria in Naples. Once back in Belle, the painter resumed his work with renewed energy. He also began producing more pieces for the salons, seeking official recognition. In 1880, he received an honourable mention for a large canvas depicting rural life in the Belle region. Encouraged by this initial success, he submitted an even more ambitious piece the following year, a religious triptych that stands out as a unique work in his career. His son, Zephyr de Winter, noted that this triptych highlighted what was already becoming apparent in Pharaon's art: his identity as a truly French-Flemish painter. He observed traces of academic influence, particularly in the somewhat cooler palette. Perhaps an echo of Ingres, the composition revealed a clear debt to 17th-century Flemish masters, especially in the structured arrangement of figures and the overall construction of the scenes. While working on the triptych, The Redemption, Pharaon was so struck by the charm of his model, Julie Fargu, the daughter of simple farmers in a nearby street, that he painted a whole series of small genre scenes and interiors with her. From 1885 onwards, De Winter concentrated on scenes from monastic life. Among other things, he went to the abbey on the Katzberg to gain inspiration. He had high expectations of his first large canvas. Au Couvent de Winter hoped to receive a medal at the Salon of that year, but missed the boat. That same evening he wrote to his family in Belle, "Everything is over here for good. I have no medal, 12 votes, double that was needed. I will come home as soon as possible. What a bad night, I am losing courage." But De Winter, like a true Flandrian, did not lose courage so quickly, and he started on a work with 2 nuns, hoping to have more success with that than with the 2 others sent. After some urging, he managed to loosen a robe of the Black Augustinian nuns of Belle, and was then able to depict a whole scene in his studio. The work was sent to the Salon of 1886, and there De Winter received the 3rd-class medal. The work was reproduced in Le Monde Illustré and later published as a lithograph. As a teacher, he had his own studio at the École des Beaux-Arts, which allowed him to paint larger formats in Lille as well. One of them was Un bobineur flamand, a Flemish yarn winder. He exhibited it at the Salon in 1893. The critic Lucien Détré wrote about it. The Flemish yarn winder is a tribute to the work that he could see since his early youth among the weavers in his hometown. It is almost a page of bygone history, because the small studios at home, like the slums in the cities, have received their demise. But paintings like this will preserve the memory of it. Its charm comes not only from realism, but also from the heart of the artist. He not only observes the people where he was born, but shows his deep love for them. Religious subjects are central to his work. During the 1880s and 1890s he exhibited religious subjects with monks and nuns at no fewer than 9 salons from 1885 to 1899. At the World Exhibition in Paris in 1900 he only showed portraits and his now famous Flemish yarn winder. But at the beginning of the 20th century he exhibited work up to 1905. Even during the World Exhibition in Brussels in 1910, he showed a canvas with a young nun in the French section. De Winter grew up in one of the most Flemish regions in northern France, and then returned to Bruges for many years. In the style of 19th century realism, he developed and remained steadfast. At a certain point, in 1902, De Winter, who was so devoted to the academy, was also obliged to organize a free course. As head of the City Art Academy, he had come into conflict with the city government, which wanted to reduce the number of teaching hours, which would have resulted in the students of Lille, according to an objective criterion, becoming inferior in comparison with the practice in the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. De Winter opposed this so vehemently that he not only threatened to resign, but also left his post. He then started his own school under the high patronage of the famous Carolus Duran, but immediately gave up the material security he had had until then. The conflict with the city lasted until 1905. De Winter, who continued to achieve success every year at the salons in Paris, then accepted the city's proposal to once again take over the leadership of the City Art Academy. Then came the onset of the First World War, where his son Zephyr was called up for military service, and in Lille, where the painter was staying, was occupied for 4 years. During that period his eyes were operated on 6 times. When things started to improve, the painter learned that the German army had almost completely destroyed the town of Belle during an absurd offensive in 1918. That was precisely where De Winter had stored his main body of works in his studio in the Rue de Moulins, probably intending to set up his own studio museum. This loss was not only quantitatively important, about 1/5 of his work went up in flames, but it was qualitatively even worse because the painter obviously kept very good works in reserve for his future museum. The data in the catalogue of the Benoit Dupuit Museum in Belle show that of the total of 252 known works, 50 were destroyed during the war. After the First World War, a great deal changed in all areas. The glory days of the salons, as a taste-setting institution and ultimate position, were definitely over. The large salon pieces that adorned so many town halls, museums, often very colossal artworks, and wealthy residences lost their value in a short time. The new generation opted for Impressionism and its offshoots as almost official art, while the most enlightened enthusiasts looked forward to the avant-garde or graffiti art that became popular all over the world. There was suddenly no place for realism like De Winter. It is therefore not surprising that interest in De Winter quickly waned. Fortunately, in more recent times, the re-evaluation of high art of the Golden Age is returning. With that, we hope you enjoyed this look into the work of a very talented painter, and hopefully more of his work will surface as well. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe. There is a PayPal link below for any amount. So with that, we will see you next time. Bye for now.